I'm really just gonna let everybody introduce themselves, but we've got Anya A'Hearn, Cathy Bledsoe, Brittany Fong, Leigh Fonseca, and Jackson, and our moderator is Trina Arnett. Trina, are you on?
Hi, everyone. It's super exciting to be here. I'm honored that Caesar and Emily asked me to moderate this panel of amazing consulting founders. Start my video. There we go. Oh, that's better. Hey, so I first before we get started with some of these great questions that we have, I wanted to have each of the panelists just do a little introduction. Things like tell us a little bit about who you are. How long you've been in business for yourself, what your specialties or scope of work might be, maybe a little bit about the kinds of companies that you may work with or where they are located and anything else. So I'm gonna just have you guys jump in. Cathy, do you wanna start?
Sounds good. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Cathy Bledsoe, and I am the co-founder of a company called One Health Insights. We specialize in public health data and environmental protection data, and we help people, mostly government agencies, use data to improve the health of communities. So our business is working mainly in the public health realm. Like I said, we don't just do Tableau or data viz, but I am working on incorporating and integrating data viz and Tableau into every project that we have so that I can try my hardest to sneak a data visualization culture into all of the clients that we're working with. We're still pretty new. We've only been around for about 1.5 years at this point. It's just my business partner and myself right now, but we're going to be bringing on hopefully several new employees in the next year, so that's really exciting. I worked as an independent contractor for 2 years before I started up, and I'll say that there's a huge difference between going from a sole proprietorship to actually trying to grow a company. We're still learning every day, so I am just as excited to learn from this group of lovely ladies as I am to share what I've learned so far. So thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, thanks so much. That's great, I'm very excited. Anne, do you wanna jump in next?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ann Jackson. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm going to put it to you guys this way. I've been crafting my elevator pitch probably for the past 9 weeks. So I'm going to give you the elevator pitch for Jackson 2. So I run Jackson 2, a data analytics consultancy obsessed with helping businesses understand their data. We focus on scalable analytics projects and enhancing the skills of existing analytics teams. So there's the elevator pitch. If you hate it, please let me know because I want to focus on my elevator pitch this year because it's really critical. Taking it away from all those words, it's really, I kind of mean what I say. So we work on scalable analytics projects. So a lot of my clients are actually quite small. They are very Tableau focused. And then there's also a big part of the practice that is focused on training and enablement and adoption as well. There's always a vein of visualization, I would say, in the work that we do from a consulting perspective. It does not always mean Tableau, though.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne. Let's see. Who do we have up next? Brittany.
Hey, I'm Brittany Fong, and I'm in the DC area. I started B Fong Data at the beginning of this year. It is a company of me, myself, and I. And I do a lot of data visualization consulting and design.
Awesome. Well, congrats on starting your new thing this year, Brittany. You're working on a full year then. Let's see, who do we have next? Looks like we have Anya.
Hello.
There she is.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
Cool. So my name is Anya A'Hearn. I founded DataBlick about over 14 years ago, so I've been doing this quite some time. DataBlick is a small consulting firm, but we do like to boast that we have some of the powerhouses in the Tableau world working for us, including Noah Salvatera and Christy Martini, and Jonathan Drummey still does some work part-time. So we like to think we're small, but very good at what we do. We have quite a few large-scale clients. We've done work in the past for people like Visa and Cisco and Home Depot and Bank of America and Wells Fargo. So a lot of the heavy hitters, but we also help any range of companies. So we also help smaller nonprofits and even some of the larger nonprofits. So we're lucky enough in the last few years through our contacts and work at the Tableau Foundation to have found other nonprofit clients. So I get to do exciting work this year, like traveling to Kenya to work to fight HIV, or working in the US with Feeding America to look at examining food insecurity across the United States and the impact. So really just a broad range of customers, and we just really try and focus on making practical, useful tools that are also delightful and fantastic.
How could they not be? Thanks, Anne. Or thanks, Anya. And I think Leigh is up next.
Hi, I'm Leigh Fonseca. I'm the founder of Living Data. I founded it in 2012 because I wanted to work from a beach in Thailand. And I discovered that that was actually much more difficult than I'd imagined working in data. But I also really wanted to focus on solving problems in evolving environments. So I'm a problem solver. I like to work with organizations. I like challenging them to ask better questions and then helping them answer them. I have an elastic team that supports large and small nonprofits, startups, private equity firms, blue chip and Fortune 100 companies. We deliver full stack end-to-end analytic solutions that include design, ETL, visualization, predictive analytics. We work with small data sets. We have clients who have Excel, and we work in petabyte Hadoop clusters. We have customers in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Portland, Dallas, DC, and London, and lots of parts in between.
Awesome. You've got quite the spread there of things you're covering. That's fantastic. So just a little bit about me. I'm Trina Arnett, and I founded Trinalytics, which is my consulting group, about 6.5 years ago. I work a lot with marketing agencies, ad agencies, and then also directly with marketers within bigger companies. So a lot of different variety. And then I also have sort of retainer clients as well as project clients. So lots of variety there, which I love, mostly in the US. And I'm gonna jump into some of our questions so we can get back to our panelists. And so I guess first thing, and some of you've already answered this, would be, what made you decide to do this? What made you jump in? Anybody?
I can start. So, so one thing I didn't mention that I think most of my peers did was when I started my business. So I've been independent now. Jackson 2 was founded April of this year. So it's been about 8 months. The reason that I took the kind of plunge into going independent and starting a firm of my own was I felt that there was a need, specifically with where I am geographically in Phoenix, or maybe even more the Southwest region of the United States, and that there were a lot of small and mid-sized businesses that were underserved in the type of analytics consulting and in the ways that they were actually using analytics. So as you guys probably know, I was part of a larger consulting organization. I didn't feel that it was necessarily servicing that, so I decided to go out and build my own thing.
Awesome.
I'll go, Anya. Yeah, so I actually had an offer from Visa to build out project manage a large scale project, but in order to do so, I needed to invent a company, and I had about 24 hours to do so. So in about 24 hours, Data Blick was born. The name's not ridiculous. Blick is actually view in German, so it means data view if you happen to be German. And so within 24 hours, I had a website and business cards and coffee cups, and was able to start doing that. And one of the reasons I really enjoyed and continue to work on it is, as a single mom with 2 kids, I really love having the flexibility to be able to be there for them. I work hard. I work really hard, if you know me, in crazy hours, but I want to be able to do that on my own timeline. Having looked at many companies, they offer things like 3 weeks vacation or PTO with zero flexibility in that, and I just don't think that's part of the modern economy. And I think if you want to retain the best talent, you need to be able to offer people the flexibility to work when they need to work and do what they need to do. They're grown-ups. They'll get it done if you hire the right people. So I think the flexibility is just one of the key things. And also being able to pursue the clients you want to pursue. I know people that work in consulting firms that are asked to work for clients that maybe they disagree with the ethics of that client, and they have very little options to say no. So as your own boss, you can pick and choose which clients you feel you want to support and really focus on those that you feel are doing good in the world.
Awesome. Thanks, Anya.
I'm going to tag off both of those, actually. So I was in the public sector for about 7 years, and public health agencies at the state and federal level. And, you know, I really wanted to be able to choose my clients, my customers, the people I was working with. And by having my own business, I can work with people across the country. I can work with local public health agencies. I work in states in all of the time zones, which keeps life interesting. But it's really nice to be able to choose the projects that you're passionate about and be able to do what you think needs to be done to get the work done the right way. And also just being able to grow at my own pace and make sure that there's nobody else kind of telling me, oh yeah, you know, maybe you can take that training next year when we have it in the budget. If I want to learn something, I get to learn it now because I'm not my own boss. So I feel like I was sort of in a place where I really wanted to grow and I couldn't. So starting my own business allowed me that space to do that.
Wonderful. Totally agree, Cathy. Let's see, who do we have? Leigh, do you want to jump in here?
Sure. So I really wanted, much like Anya talks about, I really wanted flexibility in my schedule and the ability also to choose my clients. And so one of the primary goals that I had when I founded my company was also setting aside time and resources to be able to work on cause-related work. And I've been fortunate that some of that work I've been able to do not pro bono, and then some of it we have done pro bono. But we've, in addition to, like, because we've been able to have some really great, strong founding clients, we've been able to take some of the resources and the goodness from that and be able to apply that to be able to do work with whether they're small or larger nonprofits. And then also in the election technology space and being able to help ensure that we reduce voter wait time, help address world hunger, among other things. And so that was really a founding principle for me, to be able to invest my time and resources in not just doing great work with public sector private sector clients, but to be able to do work that supported public good.
Wonderful. Brittany, I think we're down to you.
Yep. So I was actually part-time freelancing since 2014, and freelancing in general was always something that I was interested in and thought that maybe down the line I could eventually be my own boss. So basically all of that part-time freelancing was starting to add up, and I was taking days off at my full-time job to do freelance work. And so that got to a point where it was like, well, this is a little bit ridiculous. I'm taking time off of work to work more. So I thought that it would be a good time to take the jump and try it out.
Awesome. It's great when you reach that point where you're like, hey, there's enough to do. So fantastic. Some of you have already talked about this, but if anybody didn't quite or wants to readdress it, talk about, your focus of your business. Is it a particular specialty? And I know like Leigh has sort of a specialty that we've been talking about, and specialty could be anything. So it might be geographic. So in that case, Anne sort of has a specialty. Talk about, that, and if you just kind of accept anything that comes along, or if you really try to be in a particular realm. Brittany, you can jump in if you want, since you're on the screen.
So I do a lot of Tableau work, and I think that's mainly because that's what I've kind of built up a reputation for. I'm not opposed to doing other things, but I also don't feel confident in necessarily doing other things. So Tableau is where I'm focusing right now, but once I build up those other skill sets, then I could move on to some other areas.
Awesome. Anne, anything more in terms of your specialty?
Yeah, so I would say, most of my clients are using Tableau. I find a lot of clients that are already existing Tableau customers, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Why not find a community, find clients that already are looking for your help? I've mentioned that the Southwest is a particular area of interest for me, the small and mid-sized business. I think we're pretty industry agnostic, but I have a very strong background in healthcare analytics. So a lot of my sweet spots in the clients that I retain right now come from a healthcare perspective. And so we do that as well.
Awesome. Anybody else want to jump in with stuff?
Yeah. So Datablick, we like to be able to address anyone's needs. My personal kind of focus is on just kind of what's the use case and usability, and of course, just really, really beautiful design. We've redone the front end for Boston Consulting Group. So, there's agencies come to us to just make their stuff look absolutely spectacular. But we also like to focus on doing the impossible. So when you have brains like Noah Salvatera's math mind behind things, you tend to be able to do, a lot of pretty amazing things. But I also find out that you don't necessarily have to do everything. You can work with other consulting agencies and subcontract out the parts that might not be your core competency. So if you are just starting out and maybe you're not a full stack developer, look to partner with other organizations that can fill that niche, and you're acting as the general contractor with the subs underneath you. And so, don't feel the need to do it all. It's great to have your focus and specialties, but if you can't do something necessarily, I would look to reach with other people so you're not limiting your options, just as kind of a point of advice for people starting out.
Absolutely. Leigh?
Yeah, I'd actually like to build on Anya's point because, as I said, I have an elastic organization. And what that means is that I have implementation partners and I have people that I work with that are not necessarily W-2s, but I have people that are really great at what they do. And so depending upon the project, if it's a great project and we can provide value to our client, I have people that I can reach out to and provide a complete solution to the client without needing to manage all of that on a daily basis outside of that delivery. And it ends up being there's a great community of people that you can interact with, and the Tableau community is an incredible community. And I've been working with Tableau for over a decade now, which sounds amazing to say. And Tableau now is so much more than it was when I first started working with it. When Anya and I met at conference number 2 or something and took the first certified professional exam, and they made certifying server and desktop at the same time. The server stuff has gotten really intricate, and I now have better resources for supporting that than just me. And so, like Anya said, if you're starting out, look to the community, and whether it's community of software developers or community in Tableau, or even, all of us on this panel probably have people that, we can also recommend that help other people get started. And so don't think you have to take everything on yourself. You can really be the conduit for it.
Oh, great recommendation. That's fantastic. Let's see. Cathy, did you want to say anything more about specialty or what kind of work you're accepting?
Yeah, just a little bit. And I might take a different twist on it because I've already said that my specialty is in public health data. I'm an epidemiologist by training. So that's one way to look at that. But kind of going off of what was just said, and Trina, one of the things you said earlier about do you take work from anywhere? You can still do that within a specific industry, right? When we first started, we had people coming asking us to help them write grants, and we were like, sure, bring it on. It's not data related really, but I need the work. And now we would rather focus on what we're really good at and refer people to trainers or grant writers or whatever it might be. Because when you're brand new, you just want to build up clients no matter where they come from. But I think as you go on, and I'm still pretty new to this, but as you go on, you tend to realize, I want my clients to be really successful in what they do. And if you're working with the right client, they want the same for you. There's a good balance. But not every client is like that. So sometimes I think you need to be a little more careful about who you work with and make sure that it's a good relationship, because if you're with the right client, it is a relationship and it can go on for a long time. So while it's tempting to take work from wherever, I think you have to be careful about doing it. in the long term.
Definitely great recommendation. I love that you took that take on that. This kind of leads into our next question pretty well. So how do your clients find you? Where are they looking? What are they looking for you to provide? I know Cathy, you just sort of covered some of that, but do you want to comment on any, where do the clients find you? How do they get your name and number?
Well, for me, it's still really word of mouth. So I had a pretty well-developed network in the public health space, and I've worked in cancer surveillance for a number of years. So I know someone in cancer surveillance in every state. And so I was able to jump into that and sort of capitalize on that group. And people talk, and they talk quickly. And I know everybody in this panel, and probably everybody on the phone too, has a really great network that they can tap into. And I would say use your network, because it will take you really far. So, yeah.
Awesome. Who else wants to jump in? Anne, what about you?
Yeah, I'll add on. So I would say number one is networking. So just the people that I've known throughout my career, people that I have just become like, it's funny when you think about a network, like it doesn't have to be someone that you actually know. It can be someone that knows someone that you know, right? It's so transient and it's so widespread in that regard. I mean, something as simple as LinkedIn can be a really great lead generation tool. So a lot of my clients have come directly from networking or just kind of awareness about me and being local to Phoenix. I'd also say that oddly enough, some of my best clients have just been purely random organic finds from like our website, right? So it comes from all different directions. I believe a lot of it's like how you put yourself out there, right? How we kind of market ourselves as a business is going to attract the types of clients that we ultimately want to end up working with. But there's absolutely no shame in using that network. And that's really probably what's helped my business so much starting out to be able to do things. And even just, we've all kind of had this thread of like partner relationships with other kind of small boutique consulting firms doing the same thing. That can be really helpful as well.
Wonderful.
I might add, you want to get in there and, do lots of speaking engagements, right? When you go present at conferences or even just volunteer your time at different organizations, it really gives you a lot of visibility. Also write lots of articles, publish blog posts, write articles, just get your name out there. So when search engines do come up, but also networking, the Tableau community and the Tableau sales team has been great, as far as working with us. And that's an option to consider whether or not you want to become a Tableau partner as you're launching. Datablick actually is not an official Tableau partner, but I know if you do, there is an option then. You get free licensing, and also you can work with their professional services teams when they have overflow. So again, if you're just starting out, that might be a route to consider just to get up and running with gigs until you have a big enough name to find them on your own.
Wonderful.
I'd just like to add on something to what everyone else has already said. I always like to remind myself that when I'm going to events, I never know who I'm going to meet there, and I never know who they're going to know. So it's just good to keep that in mind when I'm trying to get myself to go and talk to people and network more.
Yep, terrific. Also, all true. Anybody else? Leigh, did we hear from you on this?
I would say primarily word of mouth. So I've been fortunate to work with some great people. I reach out to my network, as Anne was talking about as well. In my earlier time frame, LinkedIn was actually really great, particularly given that 8 or 10 years ago there weren't that many people doing Tableau consulting. So, but I think that really engaging with people, talking with people. And I find even like you can be at a cocktail party and you have no idea. It's not that you're pitching your company, but if you love what you do and you're just sharing something with someone, it's remarkable how many people have this like, oh, I need that, or I know someone who needs that. And then you have a new connection. So don't pitch at parties, but don't be afraid to share your passion, because people are really attracted to that. And this work that we're doing has really great value.
Wonderful.
I'll add airplanes and trains as well to that list. Parties, airplanes, trains. I've talked to a lot of people that are so fascinated by this stuff, and they have no idea that it's out there. And you find them everywhere. it doesn't matter where you are, you know, exactly. So well said. You know, as long as you're passionate about it, when you start talking, people will listen.
Oh, totally. Totally. I'm glad to hear that in addition to network. All right, let's switch veins maybe a little bit and talk a little bit less about our passion part and more about sort of the processes and stuff. What do you guys have in place? What systems or things that do you do to help with the business side, which may not be our passion, but we all have to do it if we're on our own. So that would be my next question.
I'll go. You know, when you start out your business, you want to do everything yourself. It's your baby. You want to control it, and you need to learn to like let that go as soon as you can. A lot of the accounting stuff can be automated. There's, you know, tools like Xero that you can invoice from. You can link it to your bank account, and then have an accountant, you know, go over your stuff at the end of the month or the end of the year. Don't feel the need to do all that yourself. I was initially trying to do it all myself, and it's such a time suck. And when you look at your hourly bill rate, it's so much more efficient to go out, you know, focus on what you do and bill your rate, and then pay someone, which is probably a much less rate, to do your accounting, maintain your website, you know, update your marketing thing. So you got to let go, I think, and really look to find ways to automate or get help on some of those other more mundane day-to-day operational tasks.
Great advice. I think I need to take that advice at this point, Anya. So,
I spent like 8 years before I could unclench, so, you know, it takes a while.
Okay, I'm only at 6.5, so I'm feeling good. I got a little time. Anne.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like, I use Xero for my accounting software. So when you think about the things that I have, so I have accounting software. I have a free HubSpot CRM that I kind of work on occasionally to help track my client interactions. A Microsoft Business Essentials account. So I have a professional email address and some of those business tools. And that's really it, like my phone. And then, you know, free WordPress website hosting. There's really not a lot that you need to have like an MVP of a business to get started, especially when you think about how much stuff is integrated and how easy it is to, I mean, software as a service and all of it being on the cloud is just like a godsend to these things. I can't imagine if I had to install something on my computer anymore and maintain it. But that's really all it takes from a logistical perspective. Most of my work is done. Well, I'll add a Zoom account. So having some sort of account to actually do screen share or have professional teleconferencing, that's huge. But, you know, an all-in investment, I think that's probably around like $70, $80 a month or something like that to have the true logistical components of a business up and running.
Nice. Thanks for the list of all the good ideas. Leigh?
So I might tag on to that next, because that's sort of what I mentioned earlier when I said it was really difficult for me going from a sole proprietorship to a company, because I'm finding now, you know, that was part of my decision to really start the business. I was like, well, you know, I've already got this thing going and it's not that bad. It sort of runs itself. And then we became an S corporation. And all of a sudden, we've got all these different tax compliance things and HR compliance and everything under the sun. And we did start to kind of farm some of that out to a third-party vendor, which is great. But, you know, now that we're trying to hire our first employee, trying to figure out, like, what are the legal ramifications of doing this? And how do we set all this up? And where do we find a good lawyer to help us? And things like that. It's gotten trickier to me over time. So yeah, I still haven't figured it out. Aside from the third party to do payroll and taxes and stuff like that, I've still found that I wind up thinking about running the business a lot more than I thought I would originally. So if anyone has any advice on how to get rid of the rest of that, so I can just get back to my the data side of my life, because for me, when we made that switch to being a corporation, everything shifted. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but that's where we are right now.
Awesome. Who else wants to weigh in? I think Leigh?
Yeah, so I initially founded my company as an LLC in a situation not dissimilar to Anya's, where I'd landed my first client and I needed to become a corporation of some sort immediately to be able to service them. And some years ago, we became an S Corp. And actually not long before joining all of you today, we just ran year-end payroll. But we have a great third-party payroll service that manages all of it. And this year we implemented a 401k, and we have matching. And the thing I would encourage people to do, so like, and you know, we have an attorney that we work with that is great, and she's remote, and she focuses on contracts specifically, and like having people in place and lots of SaaS services to provide things. But when we switched to using the payroll company, and discovered that we could actually get the business to work more for us, even by implementing the 401k and having matching. And Cathy, this might be particularly great for you guys too, because you can also structure it. Lots of things that are interesting I can talk to you about separately, but it really became an extension of enabling the business to do even more for us than just having the independence and the elasticity to do the kind of work that we wanted. And so that was, you know, my first year, I struggled through like trying to keep all of my own accounting and working in QuickBooks. And I made a disaster of it. And I got to the end of the year, and it took hours and hours and hours, probably a couple days to sort it out, to then give it to someone else and for them to tell me it was a complete mess. And then I needed to pay them a bunch of money to kind of straighten it out. And I thought, I am good at data. Like, how come I am not good at this? Well, I'm not good at this because I didn't spend all year like checking in weekly or monthly. And when I got a bookkeeper, it made a huge difference. And like Anya said, that like your bill rate versus what you'll pay for a bookkeeper to keep you in check every month is just, they're two completely different worlds. And bookkeeping is not what I'm passionate about. So I would encourage you, like, know that the things that you need to manage that are part of managing a business, there are tons of services out there to help you do that. And there are ways that your business can help you that you may not even realize yet. And becoming an S Corp is one of the ways that you can really maximize some of them.
Awesome, great advice. And I too think that QuickBooks is the bane of my existence. I need to hop right out of there.
Switch to Xero, it's better.
Yeah, Xero is awesome.
Yeah, Xero is my plan, but I, similarly to Leigh, need to get to the end of a year and fix it. And last year it just didn't happen. So it's definitely on my plan. And I do want to
file accounting bankruptcy and have someone help you.
Yes, I need to do that. And I definitely want to echo the idea of the legal, and I'm glad that you ladies talked a little bit about what kind of a corporation or a legal entity you are. Because when I started, I thought that I didn't really think that I needed to do that first off, but you really do. And, you know, get that attorney to help you with all that paperwork, because it's worth it. And thinking about all those taxes at the end of the year. All right. How are we doing for time? We good?
Yeah, we're good. We've got, you've got a little more time, so you can run it for another like 10, 15 minutes if you want. Okay,
let's do it, because we've still got some great questions that I know people will find valuable to hear from. Change in our companies is probably tricky. We've talked about, you know, how much time parts of the business take. When do you think, one of your experiences been on thinking about, oh, I need a change in branding, or I need to add employees, or a change in rates? And I think rates is definitely something that people would be very interested in. Anybody want to address that? Have you gone through that? I'm sure we have, some of us that have been doing this longer. Who wants to jump in? Well, Cathy, you were talking a little bit about going from a sole proprietorship to I think you said an LLC. And then you're thinking of hiring people. What brought you into that?
So really, I think everybody that I've talked to, a couple of you on this panel at TC, things just took off. And I think everybody would echo that. And all of a sudden we had more work coming in than we anticipated that we would have. And part of what we're doing right now is we're applying for grants and trying to bring in larger contracts. So those are, of course, going to require more work and more people. And we sort of knew going into this that it wasn't just going to stay the two of us forever. We wanted to build something bigger than myself and my business partner. So it's just kind of the natural, way that things go. You get a big contract, you hire people to do the work. And that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, definitely. In terms of rates, I would say that we are figuring out rather large changes in our rates right now, because we finally have a year worth of data to show us exactly what our expenses have been, and so we can project forward for the first time. In the first year, we were just guessing what things cost and what we would need. Now that we know, we're like, oh, we didn't charge nearly enough for our work. So we're going back and readjusting now based on what the data are telling us, because we just took a stab in the dark initially, and now we're actually able to make some educated guesses.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Who else wants to jump in?
I can talk. So, so one of the things I've just done really recently is I've got a full-time staff of 2 now. So Jackson 2 is fully a 2 at this point. And I actually have like a third person who is more of a database architect, right? Like he actually would build out databases. And part of that was born out of, I was having conversations with one of my clients and I was like, I'm doing them a disservice by not bringing them in, not having awareness on this and not having that as something that I can provide to them. Like I'm limiting the scope of what they're going to be able to achieve from an analytics perspective by not having this. So when I think about onboarding employees, a lot of it's just out of need and really honestly thinking about, are you doing the best service to your clients from that perspective and offering them exactly what they need, as opposed to just the stuff that you're really good at, right? Or the stuff that you specialize in. In terms of rates, so I'll say I think I tried to really understand and be firm in where we assign monetary value to the work that we're doing and try not to veer very far from that. There's some, I'd say, flexibility there that relates to if I like you as a client or if I think it's a strategic opportunity that's going to lead to something larger, or if you are maybe nonprofit, that's where the rate becomes flexible. I will say I had a client I'll say I kind of just fired a client recently where I had done a small amount of hours at my normal rate and they were like, hey, we want to bring you onto a larger project at a smaller rate. Would you be okay with that? And at the time I was like, that's fine. I think it's more work. That's great. I actually just had to email them and say, you know what? I'm finding enough value and I'm growing my team at the current rate that we're setting. So unless you can offer that as a solution, unfortunately, it's not worth my time. And I will say also, as it relates to just kind of the monetary thing, this is where I think a lot of people get hung up with business. I think this is where I've gotten hung up in the past, is financials are really icky to talk about. And it's really hard to say your skills are worth a certain amount per hour or however you structure it. But it's critical to be able to detract yourself from that to really grow. And so if you can make a case that you're bringing value at a specific level and you still have clients that are willing to pay, that is really true market value as to what you bring. And then you can always be clever and creative in how you structure things if some sort of hourly rate just freaks people out.
I'll jump on what Anne was saying on the rate, like don't sell yourself short. I think if you compare yourself to a lot of the larger consulting firms, the clients are then also paying for all the overhead. So they're paying, maybe $3.50 an hour for an $80 an hour ditch digger because there's a sales rep in there and then all the management and overhead. So I usually tell clients, look, you're getting a top end resource and you're paying 100% for that resource as opposed to paying for a junior resource, but then covering all this overhead. So you are worth it, ask for it. Don't back down from that.
I want to kind of say this, so I was watching Shark Tank yesterday and there was like a hire Santa, and people will charge a retail organization $50 to $60 an hour to have a Santa go sit in their business. So that's someone just dressed in a Santa suit. So you can at least justify your worth and what you're doing well beyond wearing a Santa Claus outfit.
Yeah, I'll wear any outfit, sure. I'll show up. I'll show up with Santa and build your business. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Anybody else want to talk about change? I know we've hit a couple of you that have in fact already talked about that you did change your approach and what you were providing to clients. We good? All right. And we only have a few minutes left, so I want to jump into sort of the kind of wrap up. We've covered some of this already, but this is also thing people ask me all the time. What's the best thing and worst thing about having your own business? And like, what pitfalls have you learned from that you might want to share with others that are considering this idea? I know you can.
I'll start. You know, one of the things about having your own business and relying on yourself to get contracts is sometimes it's feast or famine. You'll have a pipeline of clients and suddenly something on their end gets delayed, and then you have some downtime and you've got to fill it with something else. So I think one of the downsides of being an independent consultant is trying to shuffle your time across different projects, or as multiple projects ramp up suddenly, do you have, like in Leigh's case, an elastic set of resources that you can bring on board in order to kind of handle the fluctuation in demand? So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is just trying to keep that pipeline steady so you're not underutilized at certain points and then crazy overutilized at other points. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. It's got to get done if you've committed to it. So that's probably the most kind of stressful thing. And it's your baby, right? It is like, it's my third child, right? And you never stop thinking about it. You never clock out at the end of the day. There's always more to do.
This is true.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback off of what Anya said. I mean, the name of my business has my name in it, right? It's got Jackson in it. So there's no way that I'm not intimately tied to it, and I don't see it as an extension of my own personal worth. That's probably the worst part about running your own business. There's nowhere to hide. When you're on a sales call, you are advocating for yourself, not some brand that you're standing behind. It is your brand, and there's a lot of power that comes with that. I mean, that's kind of the power that I've realized as a result of it, but it can also be scary. You can feel very exposed as a result. I think the way you framed accountability as well, Anya, is super cool. Like I agree with that as well. One of the things that I always felt whenever I worked in like industry was like people were always watching me and seeing what I was doing. And if I was being busy, if I was being productive, that goes away the moment you are your own boss. And that has been super powerful for me. That's been the best part.
Actually, I have one more thing to add, so I don't want to talk so much, is, oftentimes like I will be at sales calls and you're like, I'm not getting paid for this time. So you find yourself doing a lot of work, or going to the Tableau conference, you're sucking up a week of not earning billable hours, versus if you're an employee somewhere, you're getting paid to be doing that. And so I think that's a stress that you're constantly weighing, is, do I participate in this because it means I'm not getting my hourly bill rate? So that's just another, but you have to do it. So it's okay, but I think people have a hard time wrapping their head around that when they first go independent, is like, I'm not getting paid right now. And that's scary for a lot of people, but you get over it because then you're making twice as much. So it's all good.
Awesome.
I definitely agree with what has been said already. I have also really enjoyed the flexibility. So that's why a lot of people said that they were going to freelance. It's been really nice. I can, take off during the middle of the day if I need to, and then work at night instead. The worst part, which after talking about the tools, I'm even more worried about now, since it's the end of the year. We'll see how I did. But definitely, the day-to-day like office type work and keeping the books and all of that, it's going to be a little interesting.
Yeah. Leigh?
I think one of the challenges that I had, and that I still sometimes have, is that you are your brand. And Anne had mentioned that, and that can be a really great thing, but it can also create a sense of attachment from clients where they want you. And when it's you doing the consulting as your business and you're out there, then that's fine. But as you want to grow your business and you want to have a brand that your clients rely on, and they see you as the leader of that brand, but maybe not always the implementer, like that can become something that you really have to work through and kind of, get them to ride their bicycle, right? Like they've got to take the training wheels off and trust that the resources that you're providing for the things that were uniquely you, right? So if they come to me for something that's really specifically my sweet spot, and I want them to trust me that I have resources to do that, and they don't just need me. And it may actually be more cost effective for them to have some other resources for that as well. Like that, I think, has been one of the challenges over the years, is like being your brand and having a lot of pride in that, and then also not wanting to actually be the brand where it becomes like an anchor.
Absolutely. Cathy, did we get any of your recommendations on this?
I didn't talk about it, but you got them because I think everybody else said them. I really agree that the best part is the flexibility. Like for example, earlier this year, I found myself in a situation where I had to take 2 full months off to deal with some family stuff. And then at the end of that 2 full months, I moved all the way across the country. And there's no way I could have handled the job change at the same time. But because I had my own business and because I had a great business partner, I was able to just drop everything for a little bit and then pick right back up when I got moved. And so the flexibility is the best. The worst is that there's no one to go to. I had someone the other day tell me, you know, I had to call the Federal Service Desk to get help with a question about tax registration stuff. And they told me to go ask my supervisor. And I was like, I don't have one. That's why I'm calling you and not them. And they said, oh, well, we don't know either. So go figure it out somewhere else. You don't have a finance department that you can go to. You don't have an HR department that you can rely on to write up a good PD and post it. It's all you, which is both empowering and very scary. But for me, I think my business partner has been the key to keeping things going for the both of us. We were talking about this the other day, and both of us agreed that neither of us would have done this or would have continued to do it without each other. So I think having the right people, whether it's a board of advisors or a partner or just a great team that works for you, whatever it is, finding the right people has been absolutely key for me and very helpful for getting through the bad times.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes you do wish you had that other person to lean on. So, Caesar, do we need to turn this back over to you or Emily?
You know, it's been going extremely well. We still have a couple minutes, so I don't know if you have any questions.
There was a question in the Q&A about how to balance work and life. So can somebody just touch on that briefly?
Anya, do you want to jump in there? I know you.
I already replied my snarky, like, what's balance? I don't know that word. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, especially when you have family and kids. Like, at a certain time of day, I just turn my phone off, and you know, if it can wait until after they go to bed before I get on, or because I am part of a team. You know, my father just had heart surgery. It's okay to reach out to your team and say, hey, you know, when things come in, you know, general questions, can you take a lead on it? So, I mean, you have to. And then I also find if you work nonstop and you never take a break, you lose your creativity or your spark. And so oftentimes just getting your head out of that space for a couple hours will give you a whole new outlook, a whole new perspective. So it is really important to just take time and play with your kids, go to an art museum. All those things will actually help you be more productive. You know, go surf. It'll help you be more productive when you do come back to work. So I think you just need to realize that you need to take care of yourself as well and your family.
I was going to add and say that, like, I think I've reclaimed a lot of my own personal time as a result. So I think about like commuting, getting ready in the morning, you know, being somewhere for a very static period of time. I think the work-life balance is harder to quantify because it is so fluid, but I find myself working on the things that are important and impactful much more often going this route. It may be harder to say how many hours are associated with it that you get from like a structured lifestyle where you go to an office and have a job. But I think the quality of work being done and the quality of my personal time has actually increased as a result.
I agree entirely. I think my work-life balance has gotten a lot better now that I'm not dealing with a commute and everything you just said, trying to get ready in the morning and be at a certain place for a certain time and be in other people's meetings. And I actually feel that my work-life balance is a lot better than it used to be.
I agree with that as well. I find that when people are paying you for your time, they don't bring you into like the bureaucratic meetings where they're going to fight over what they want the name of the dashboard to be called. So that like gives you free time.
I'm glad to hear that, Brittany. I know that's one of my favorite things. Like, don't pull me into your office politics. I'll, you know, I don't need to be in that.
Hey, we've got a couple of other questions too from John Miller. He wants to know where are everybody's businesses based out of? Are you in an office, home office, co-working space, the beach? And then secondly, he wants to know, do you prefer to bill hourly or by the project for your clients, knowing that there's a lot of unknowns that can affect the volume of work needed? How do you kind of balance that or make that decision?
So you're looking at my office. This is where I do probably 90% of my work. The rest of it's probably on my phone. Occasionally I'll go into meetings. I haven't needed a physical footprint for the business yet, and I actually don't think that there will be a need to do that for the foreseeable future. Most of the work that I do with clients is hourly billable, but I'm open and flexible to either situation. You kind of have to feel out the client and understand where their comfort level is in structuring something that will work well for them.
I work out of my guest room as my office, so I work in San Francisco in an extra bedroom. But I also spend a lot of time. It does get lonely. I have my dog who I love, but during the day I will go work at coffee shops, and there's also like WeWork spaces. So sometimes if you don't want to feel isolated, it's great to work at some of these communal working spaces downtown. You meet other people. It's also good for networking, and you also don't feel like you're in your pajamas. I actually when I got on this conference, I realized we had to show our faces, and I was like, oh shit, I have to go put on makeup and do my hair. So it's nice to have those reasons to not just be a slob in your house all day, but getting out and be social, so you can have both those opportunities. But yeah, I've never felt the need to actually have an office space where a client could come. I usually just go to them. Cool.
Yeah, we're the same, and we sort of pride ourselves on that. I'm in Pennsylvania now, and my business partner is in Montana, and we can do work wherever, and that's a good thing. We have a Zoom account. We use it every day, and it's just like being in the office, but in Louisiana and then Florida and then Illinois all in one day. So it's great.
Well, what's nice about that for customers, like Noah's in Cleveland, right? So I have people all over. So if someone does need to go to the office, I have resources all over the country. So it's not a big travel expense. You can go to Cincinnati really quickly. It's a car drive, right? Or go to the East Coast more quickly than I could from San Francisco. So yeah, remote offices are awesome.
Absolutely.
I agree. I'm in my home office. I have my dog as an office mate as well. But I actually don't mind not leaving the house.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Trina, thank you so much for moderating, and thank you to our panelists. This is amazing. I was trying to take as many notes, but then also listen. This has been just, I think, so fantastic. So thank you, everyone. Leigh, Anya, Cathy, Anne, Brittany, y'all had such a great perspective, and I think coming from different ways that you are doing your business, operating it, I think has been really helpful. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Trina for narrating, for moderating.
Thanks, Trina.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. It was fantastic, and I learned a lot too.
All right. And so at this point, we will, before we head over to our next speaker, we are going to, I just want to remind folks that we do have the offer, the support from Playfair Data, and that you have the ability to get $50 off of the lifetime membership for their training. So I would just say take a look at that, and definitely kind of look into it, see if it's right for you. But I know that that's a really great resource for training tips and tutorials. So take advantage of that offer. You can use the code TFFNA. And so at this point, we will turn it over to our next speaker, who is Lindsay Betzendahl.